Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by sourcevibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
The souls have spoken, and the universe has answered. For victory is here, and the gates to the golden age are open. The star seeds are shining. The ancestors have risen. We are the souls of the universe and protectors of Mother. The reign of power has been restored to us, and we have moved on to peace, prosperity, health, abundance, freedom through love. Welcome all free souls to the golden age. Signed, the children of Mother, the ancient ones return. All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda. We have a great show planned for you tonight. Tonight's topic, Brother Sean, I want to thank him because he recommended it. So we are going to go in tonight on King James Demonology. We also have scheduled a brother Andrue to drop in and join us between 7 and 8 o'clock. Also did a good drop on demonology as well, so he's going to join us for the discussion. So with that said, let me bring on my co-hosts. I see both Sean and Sis there. So here we go. Let me bring on Brother Sean. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Wellness and power, sis. I'm well. How about you?
All right. I'm well. Great to hear your voice. I am well.
Likewise.
All right. Let me bring on Sis Sandra. Peace and love, sis.
Peace and love to you too, sis. And to you, brother Sean.
Hey, sis.
And family.
All right. Good to hear your voice, sis. Good to hear your voice. Okay, so as usual, we have a bunch of stuff going on. So before I get into the follow-up items, I just want to ask, sis, I'll start with you. Do you have any go ahead on with the fuckery?
Well, not really. I've been kind of experiencing some personal losses. So, yeah,
Sorry.
so, like in the last 2 weeks, they're like dropping like flies. So I haven't paid much attention except for I get tired of it. I don't even know why they include us in all this stuff and have to put it on air about every 2 minutes about this thing and that thing. But, that's the only thing I have problems with is they just keep saying it over and over again like it's something to do with us, and it doesn't have anything to do with us.
Right. Indeed. Brother Sean, you have anything with the go ahead on with the fuckery for tonight?
I'm good.
Okay. All righty. Okay, so I'm going to start with the follow-up items. We have quite a few tonight, and it's getting hard, so I have to block a lot of the stuff out, put it to the back burner, unfortunately. So I'm going to start with the stuff in the skies first. If you all aren't YouTube scrollers, I would encourage you to do so. I have to give a shout out to folks that put content on YouTube. They are really putting, of course, there's a lot of garbage out there, but if you can use your discernment, which I know a lot of the family can, you can really find a lot of good content out there. And lately,
you might
folks
have to switch phones, sis.
Oh, they starting with it. Okay,
yeah,
so it's
already.
them. It's not me, because I even switch headsets. So it's not. It's them. It ain't me. So
yeah, they started early.
Yeah, because I heard it when.
Cracking.
Oh, dang. Okay, so give me a second. I'll switch over. So hold on.
Yeah, they had started in the introduction.
Yeah, they did.
I guess it's probably this subject matter.
Oh, yeah, they do a lot of that, don't they?
Yeah, I haven't seen very many people take this subject on.
No. But I hear a lot of people copying us. So
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting. They already out there with it, and I'm like, oh, they must have heard that from us.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool thing. Yep. All righty. So I was back to the YouTube content people, giving them a shout out. Yes, they have really been doing a great job with putting out content. Folks have been going outside, tracking things in the sky. Even one brother, and I'll have to get you that YouTube channel because the sis sent it to me. Shit, he flew up his drone. That's how much he ain't playing with them. So, and they've really been capturing all of these different planetary objects in the sky by the sun, particularly when it rises and sets, and also by the moon. Okay, so as we've discussed for several times on this show, we've been discussing it for years, that these things are to come as the age has changed over and these new energies are here. That's what those new planetary bodies represent, to raise the vibration of the planet and also raise our vibration. So as usual, I'm minding my business, and we have
where I talked about it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, where China has built an artificial moon, and they're going to launch it. Now, they claiming, sitting up here claiming that they launching this artificial moon because they want to light the sky at night and as well light the streets to save energy, woo, etc. So the dailymail.com, when did they put this out? November 14th. China builds an artificial sun that can hit temperatures of 180 million degrees Fahrenheit in its quest to produce near limitless cheap energy. Now, before I go into reading this, YouTube, and again, shout out to the YouTube community, they have been putting out content over the this is the second year, discussing the artificial sun technology, how there are patents on the technology from different nations, how they were building it, how they were testing it, and then specifically folks have been documenting in the sky where here in the U.S., where they have been using this artificial sun, okay? And I know that they're telling the truth, and I've shared this story several times because I have security cameras around my house that just so happen to catch when the sun sets and when the sun rises. And countless a number of times on that security camera, I have spotted the artificial sun because it has a black dot in the middle of it. And people on YouTube have zoomed in on the sun, on that artificial sun, and they see that black dot spinning. Okay, so now they're starting to publicly disclose that they're going to be putting up artificial suns. Okay, now their reasoning is bull S, but it is what it is. So here we go. China has built an artificial sun that reaches temperatures 6 times that of the core of our closest star. The state-of-the-art reactor is designed to replicate the processes of the sun as part of a project to turn hydrogen into cost-effective green energy. It reached a key milestone this week when it hit 180 million Fahrenheit for the first time, which is believed to be the temperature at which nuclear fusion occurs. Scientists across the globe are locked in a race to build the world's first operational nuclear fusion reactor. The victor will unlock a source of near limitless clean energy worth billions that some believe could save the planet from the climate change crisis. Okay, so let's stop and talk about this climate change crisis. That is a cover story, family, for the vibrational shifts that are happening with Mama Earth. Okay, so you know, with the storms, with the tornadoes, with the volcanoes, and Brother Sean and I was talking back and forth about a possible ice age, okay? And I just saw a video before jumping on air where they were saying down in Australia in the summertime that they had record-breaking winter temperatures. So this whole climate change thing is their cover story for not coming out admitting the global shift of Mama Earth, okay? And, you know, we know from a spiritual perspective, this is an alignment of the higher vibration energies, and it is cleanup time, okay? And particularly, not only has our regular sun gotten hotter as it should be, but it has gotten assistance from a second sun, and some even say a third sun. I do know of 2 because I've personally seen it twice with my own naked eye, and then I caught it another time when they kind of sneak it into some programming. Okay, so this is the cover story that they're using to throw these artificial suns up to try to block out those sun rays that are hitting our atmosphere. Because the purpose of those sun rays hitting the atmosphere is to assist in the raising of the vibration, and it's also to assist with you with unlocking your DNA code that are getting you to the higher level frequencies that you need to be. And then on the same hand, as it is doing that, it is also going to scorch those that are not in line with the particular DNA bloodline structure and vibratorial rate. Okay? All right, so let me get back to this bullshit that they spewing. It's not going to be long. Scientists at the, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
I mean, you can look at it another way. They putting that together to unthought themselves.
Ooh, hell to the no.
They can use that to try and thaw things out, but that ain't going to work for them. But it also can be putting it up here to obstruct the things that are happening. Same reason why they're doing the chemtrails. And also, what is the fake-ass moon hiding?
Yeah, it's a video.
It's a hologram.
Yes. I'm gonna have to scroll through my stuff. A sis sent me right before I jumped on the air this brother's YouTube stuff, and he went in, y'all, and he talked about the moon. And matter of fact, y'all can Google it. I mean, YouTube it yourself, because there is, now I don't know if the footage is real. The brother didn't put this footage out. Somebody else put the footage out about the moon in Antarctica. And it was literally showing a picture of this supposed moon. I mean, huge as day. Looked like it was almost just sitting on the land in Antarctica. And the shit was at a standstill, y'all. It was like not even a little bit more than a half of a moon. It was just sitting there. And the footage was only 15 or so seconds. So you can definitely YouTube it. When I find it, I'll plop it on Truth Uncompromised Facebook. But, yes, I totally agree, Brother Sean. And, you know, it's been said that the moon was a hologram. I've also heard that it was some type of monitoring satellite that was trying to sit up in the sky and control frequencies, etc. So that's a very good point. And you're right with the artificial sun, with blocking out the rest of the things that are going on in the sky, because if you all do a little research on it from the YouTube community, they're also showing where they have mirrors behind the sun as well, and that artificial sun, rather, to reflect, to put a reflection up in the sky to block things out, because folks are filming orbs flying around. Folks are filming cloak, big ass craft. So it's a lot of shit going on that they're hiding, and now they're coming public talking about some of these artificial suns and moons for some supposed energy.
It is. But that all be the playoff for when those other two suns do pop up. They can claim it's an artificial sun. Cause where they fire that thing up at in order to test that it get that hot? I mean, what technology they got to test that? And how many of their little asses got burnt up?
That's true.
That's true. You know, I'm glad you brought up about the sons, that they could also be doing that to give the cover from when the other sons show up, because the sis that sent me the video was also talking about having a dream about the different planets. You know, I know other people that have told me that they have had dreams about the different planets showing up in our solar system, and particularly multiple suns. One person said 3 suns. I know I personally had dreams of seeing multiple suns in the sky, and people were just straight up stunned. So that's a very good point, Brother Sean. They're probably getting their cover story together for when those other suns, they can't hide it anymore, in other words. Okay, so it says scientists at China's Hefei Institute of Physical Science announced, their fusion machine hit 180 million Fahrenheit on Tuesday. Okay, so they just claiming they just recently tested this last week, y'all. This is more than 6 times hotter than the core of the sun. Okay, so they gonna lead us to believe that I thought you couldn't get that close to the sun, but now whatever. Right. So, but now they claiming that they tested it and it's 6 times hotter. Okay, yeah, whatever. So scientists believe that nuclear fusion occurs at 180 million F-, causing charged deuterium and tritium particles joined together in a huge burst of energy. Let me see if I want to read the rest of this. No, I'm not going to read the rest of it because it's just bullshit. They just talking about their supposed fake science. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there to the family that now they are disclosing artificial suns and artificial moons. And again, shout out to the YouTube community because they've been saying that now for 2 years that they've had they have that technology and they are currently using that technology. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
Maybe it's just an excuse because they know that the people are supposed to be burning up according to the prophecies.
Yes.
And a lot of people are already having multiple skin problems already, and they're seeking medical help for it. And, we were going to L.A. Tuesday. There was a huge planet in the sky.
What? Yes, sis. L.A., whatever planet that is, I don't know if it was that black planet, but a lot of people been recording in the L.A. area.
We were here in my area, Central California. Before we even left here, we looked into the eastern sky.
Mm-hmm.
South, and there was this huge planet to the naked eye.
Was it southeast?
Southeast. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, because when I was in Atlanta, that's when I saw the the 2 suns twice in that southeast area. But yeah, I've been hearing that. I've been actually just seeing it on YouTube where folks in California, specifically LA, and I don't know the other little cities in California that they've been discovering it, and in South America.
Right.
Folks have been recording stuff too.
Now, see, they came on YouTube and other places and said Jupiter was Nibiru. That's what they said.
Who said that?
Let's see. God, I can't remember his name right now. You asked the question, it went right out of my head.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
They said
I'm trying to compute that.
But the theory is and has been in prophecy that Nibiru, on its return, will be on the West Coast and California area. as it passes by. And all this destruction will happen when it passes by, like fires,
right,
and floods, and hurricanes, all kinds of stuff. And that is exactly what's happening.
Yep.
And you can see it.
Yeah.
But they said it was Jupiter. I said, okay, Jupiter. I see
what you're saying. Yeah. Because I did see some video where this man was like, yeah, and if y'all see something by the moon, that's
Earth.
Venus, y'all. That's Venus. And then somebody else said that's Jupiter. I'm like, so when did Venus turn black? Yeah.
No, this one was real bright. And this was BP Earth who said this. BP Earth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's a co-op. But, yeah. He has too much equipment for average person, you know, to report sunspots and this spot and that spot. So, yes, and it's not black. It's hugely bright.
Yeah, there's multiple things going on. You have the two suns, two that we know of. It's probably three by now. Then you have Nibiru itself. That's the one with the red hue that be looking like it's straight on fire, y'all. So when you see that sky,
in the western sky.
When you see, and you're right, in the western sky, when you see it looking like fire, that's that Nibiru hue. And then you have a black planet, literally a black planet that shows up. And then, as Sis said, people are reporting the huge, bright planet. Now, that's just a couple that were literally documented on film. That's not even taken into account all of the orbs that's getting captured, all of the different cloak spacecraft that's getting captured. And I'm going to pull that video because one brother, that video that was sent to me, because that brother had ran across a video that, and Sis, you would appreciate this, during the California fires, on one of the particular news stations was live reporting as the fire was going. And it was some craft, some plane or whatever. I guess they was trying to fight the fire with the water or whatever they put down. So somebody else was looking at this on the news and saw a cloak spacecraft was
probably
shooting down beams and then was controlling the way the winds was blowing for the fire. So I'm like, whoa, this thing is deep, y'all. Yeah, it gets deep. Although I do believe that the California fires were used with that DEW technology. But like I said, I was telling some person, I said, but I tell you one thing, they burned very systematically because they truly did not burn those trees.
No,
and,
they did.
You know, I feel that they were scared to burn the trees.
They didn't even burn the shrubs around it. You know, like a wildfire will burn the shrubs.
Yeah, that's deep.
They showed the fire coming out of the houses, bursting. Because the lasers, they say, was direct beamed to the homes.
Yeah, so it's really, really interesting. I sent Brother Sean something last night. I'm still kind of researching it, where these guys were talking about different ghost cities, and they're not really ghost cities, but ghost mansions that were built back in the 1700s, I want to say. So long story short, the more I started looking into what they were talking about, they were equating it with how during that 1700 time, particularly the late 1700s, early 1800s, so many trees were cut down that mudslides started occurring all across the planet. Okay, and so I got to thinking about, okay, so what really happened during that time frame? So we know here over in the Americas, we were still fighting all of those particular wars. One of the big ones, the Gullah Wars, to hold on to the land. Okay, and during that time frame, as we were being defeated, they started coming in, you know, tearing down the trees and desecrating the natural landscape and messing with the settlement of original Mama. And so as I'm looking at these guys explain about these ghost mansions that they build and they felt they were doing it to fake history, blah, 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 I thought to myself, you know, that's just another indication of all of this stuff has to be cleaned up. So, and someone said to me, and this person isn't really into deep spirituality, but they are spiritual, if that makes sense. They said to me, you know, all of these buildings that have been built across this planet is unnatural, because every time they dig in the soil, it takes away and it makes it unstable. So I'm saying all that to say, none of this stuff is a coincidence. All of this shit that they have built to make things out of balance, it is all going to be destroyed. Okay, some of it is going to be through fire, some of it is going to be through water. That brother in the video, I'm like, damn, he ain't playing. He basically said that Europe is going to be totally frozen over. It's going to go into an ice age.
Hey, that's that movie Day After Tomorrow.
Yes, because when I was looking at his video, I said, oh, shit, he describing Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's see, what was I going to say? That took me off. Oh, you said, when Nibiru comes, and you said this some years ago, that he's going to bring 7 sons with it. You remember that?
Ooh, I must have got that from the ethers. But now I did have a dream that it was about that amount, either 7 or 9 suns in the sky. Yeah, that's what my dream was. Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, Dr. Phil. See, we're going to go through the galactical rift. And as we go through the Milky Way, which is the Milky Way gap, that Milky Way gap, you know, you see the stars of the Milky Way, you see this blank spot. We're supposed to go through that. And it depends on what goes first, the Earth or the sun. If the Earth goes first, I think we'll still get the sun. But if the sun goes first, we're not going to have any daylight. And I think they're right now telling the people that it's going to get dark.
Yeah, because they're trying to set the scenario that the sun is energy is dimming. So whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry, Brother Sean. Go ahead on.
Well, Nibiru is actually a sun. Everybody looking for a planet.
Well, the sun is kind of like a planet anyway, so like the moon. So, but they don't name it a planet. But
moon is a hologram. I'm thinking Nibiru is the sun. That's why they fear it. I mean, if it's going to create as much havoc as they say it is, everything's supposed to burn up, it would make sense to me that it's the 3rd largest sun.
Right. That would make sense. That would make sense. I do know that other people, I know Brother Remedy H said it, and then another lady, she's on Facebook. Her name is Nana Wu, and she does Facebook live video posts. Both of them, now 2 separate people, said that they had dreams that getting so hot that the sun raised the temperature of the planet so hot and the radiation was so high that people were just combusting, but they were like turning into dust.
Huh.
And they saw folks with hazmat suits on, like scraping up these ashes off of the ground. Now these were 2 totally separate people with 2 they don't. He put his out one day. She put hers out another, 2 separate dreams. So I found that very, very, very interesting.
You know.
Sorry, go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
I had a dream that they had those plastic Tupperware containers. And this is before I realized they do have them. And they were huge. And they were rolling bodies into those Tupperware containers, about 3 or 4 people at a time. They were all European. And so I saw this some years ago, and then somebody and I told people about it. Then somebody pointed out to me that Bush Jr. had ordered those containers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they are in FEMA camps waiting to roll people into them. And I said,
right.
Whoa. So I was listening to Dina Cow. She has a YouTube thing, and this preacher was getting on there, and he was talking his prophecies, and he mentioned that too. But see, there was a big old hype because Obama was president, and everybody was seeing all this stuff they claimed because they were afraid that Obama was going to be their terminator. But they need to be worried about. They need to be worried about this dude here.
And you know, my only thing with the whole European thing is just the fact that they're not being honest with their own people. Because, you know, we're at the point now of no point of return. Yeah. So folks have to get their shit in order. They have to live through truth. And this goes to the melanated people, too. But right now I'm on the European, so not this particular time is your goddamn time. You know, they're not putting out the truthful message to their people to get their shit together from a conscious perspective and let go of all them airs and bullshit of superiority, because mama is not playing. It's cleansing time. Okay? So they're not being truthful to their people on why the sun is being even more brutal and beating down on them, and why suicide rates are skyrocketing for white men, specifically in the U.S., which is the sad part. But on the other hand, it is everyone's responsibility on the planet to know what's going on to raise their consciousness. So we're definitely living in some interesting times, and it's to the point, like we've discussed over the past couple of weeks, that the portals are definitely open, and the energy is already seeping in no matter how much they try to block it. And so the truth will prevail. They have no choice but to start bringing these things forward, because they are manifesting in the physical from the spiritual. And it's not that they didn't know, like Sis said, it was written, it was prophecy. You know, this is what our ancestors documented. And particularly the Caucasians, a set of them, they held those prophecies. They know what those prophecies are. And, just what a shame for them not to have prepared their folks better than they are. So, but, it is what it is. Okay, so the other thing I want to bring up, let me just check to make sure. That's what okay. Brother is in the queue, so I'm going to get you. Brother, press *1, and then I'll see you. And then the sis just text me saying that's human combustion. Yes, with people exploding. Okay, go ahead on, sis.
Oh, I was going to say BP Earth, I think he even said that we are the second rock from the sun instead of the third rock like we used to be. So that's also increasing the heat on this planet. We changed positions.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all. So definitely gearing up. Okay, let me see. Let's see if I can find Brother. He's there. Okay, let me bring him in. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Oh, hi. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us. Can you introduce can you introduce yourself to the family?
Yes, my name is Andrue. A lot of people know me as Zal.
Okay. Just again, family, Brother Andrue is joining us because he was recommended by Brother Sean because he did a real good drop on King James Demonology. So I asked him to join us tonight as we kind of break this down, and so I'm very glad that you are joining us for this. So, and sorry, I don't know how long you were in the queue. We always do kind of a follow-up and kind of discuss what's going on before we get into tonight's content.
Right, okay. Well, I just got in. I'm actually a little bit late, I guess. I had to handle something real quick. But
no worries.
I've been in for about 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, no worries.
So I was overhearing I was overhearing what you was talking about in regards to them not stopping the prophecies that was predicted by our ancestors. That was done purposely to essentially divert a particular flow of consciousness that was supposed to take place at that particular time, but they did it exactly at the time it needs to be done. It's just that when we're viewing that particular time, we also looking at a totally different type. How can I put this? We're looking at different levels of calendars. So whereas we got a 12-month calendar, they're dealing with a 13-month, a 24-month, and then some of their calendars only have 9 days. So what days in particular to put certain spells out there or certain events. So, now when you say,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had a quick question.
Go ahead.
Did you mean our ancestors or the Caucasians that got a hold of the knowledge, or that was actually given the knowledge? I'm not even going to say got a hold of. I'm sorry. So who had the different calendars to know what spells to put out at which particular time?
Well, as you just stated, it was given to them. So this will come from our people.
Yep.
In particular, our people that were at odds with us. They would use our calendars that we essentially taught them as well. And then took those calendars and taught them the same thing. But you know, as far as that goes, and as far as some magic spells go, it is true that the Caucasian was taught a great deal of things. We also have to keep in mind that in his culture, some of the stuff that we're dealing with coming from his viewpoint, he actually created in his own regard. But when it comes to the calendars, yes, they deal from an interplanetary aspect. They deal from how can I put this? They deal from a luminary aspect of things. They seem to go use the calendars based on the seasons. This is why they give us the equinoxes, even though we're dealing with 4 of them in their in their eyes, on their view, based on their limited view of things. But at the same time, all the calendars are based on specific level of events they're going to unleash or put forth at this day and time. Like, for instance, I live out here in California. As a matter of fact, I'm from the Bay Area, and I noticed that every year that I've lived here, I've only noticed this for the past 3 years, but since I went back doing a retrospect on a couple of things, I realized that every time they have a massive fire, there's always a massacre shooting or massacre shootings that take place. The deeper I looked at that, the more I realized that the massacre they had in Vegas last year, they had that right around the time that they had the Wicker Man Festival. And right at the time they had the Wicker Man Festival, at the same time they had the last fires they had in California. At that time, the mass shooting combined with the fires, that in itself is the entire symbolism of the Wicker Man. So it's like man sacrificing himself. So now here we go again. These new forest fires, or these new fires that burned up Malibu and everywhere else. And then you had the mass shooting that took place. You had the mass shootings between the Bar and Grill up in Thousand Oaks. Right after that happened, the forest fire happened at Thousand Oaks. Then you have you had the shooting at the Jewish temple, the synagogue. So all these shootings take place around the same time the fires happen. It's always symbolic of sacrifice, like a baptism.
Got you. So a ritual, in essence.
Yes.
Yes. Wow. Yes. Now that's interesting. It makes a lot of sense. And that's why I'm happy that you're joining us tonight because, okay, so I started in with demonology. I got all the way, because it took me some time to get into the language, and you know what I'm saying, the way it's written, it's English, but I guess it's old English. Yes. So I had to get my brain together to convert the words. So once I was able to do that, I was cool, but I got all the way up until I finished all of the end of book 1. So, you know, I just found it interesting that, number one, he started out, and first of all, let me back up, family, because I'm probably rushing for those that don't know. So forgive me. I'm all excited when he started talking about the rituals and spells. So King James, okay, first, you know, let's just make the family remember that he was melanated. All of the kings at that time that sat on them thrones were melanated, okay, before the Caucasians took rule, okay. So King James is credited with, they're saying he wrote the Bible. He didn't actually write the Bible. He commissioned for the Bible to be published, okay. But before that, I would highly recommend folks read Demonology, because Demonology was written supposedly by him before the Bible, and it clearly is a pretext, and I like how Brother Sean said this. demonology is a pretext to how they were going to set up the Holy Bible. But the other point is you're going to see as you're reading through demonology that he referenced the scriptures. So that lets you know that there were scriptures already out there prior to the Bible. And when was this written? Was it 15? Doggone it, I had it. Let me pull it up. When it was actually written. I want to say it was, bear with me, my stuff just disappears.
1597.
Okay, thank you, Brother Sean. 1597, yes. It was, come on, Wikipedia, just trying to, I've already donated to y'all. Okay, so demonology in form of a dialogue is divided into 3 books by the High and Mighty Prince James, was written and published in 1597 by King James V of Scotland, later also James I of England. And so that taught me something new by reading demonology, because I didn't even know that King James was actually king of Scotland before he was of England. Okay, so it is a philosophical dissertation on contemporary, and I'm probably not pronouncing this right, but you see this word a lot in demonology, necromancy, and the historical relationships between the various methods of divination used from ancient black magic. This includes study on demonology and the methods demons use to bother trouble men, while touching on the topics such as werewolves and vampires. Okay, so I'm not going to read the rest of that. I just want to give you an introduction that demonology was written 1597 by King James of England, prior to the publishing of the Holy Bible, or the King James Version of the Holy Bible, which was published in 1611. Okay. Now, what struck me out the gate on the first chapter of it is, if you want to call it chapters or whatever, he starts going in on a witch, because it starts out talking about Saul, who we know in the Bible as Paul. So it goes on to say that a charmer witch or a charmer or spellcasters who supposedly had brought forth or conjured image to Saul, which we know as Paul. So what was interesting to me was that he was saying that the witch, which he called the charmer, performed the ceremony by using circles and conjured up. And I think who she conjured up was, dang, I wrote so much I can't even remember or read what I wrote, who she conjured up. Because she brought forth to him, Brother Sean, you remember who she particularly brought forward to Saul? And King James was like, that couldn't be so, because Saul, she performed a ritual ceremony for Saul, what we would know today as a seance.
You mean the Witch of Endor, who did a seance for Saul because he asked her who was going to win the war that he was waging, and she conjured up for him to show him who was going to win.
Yeah, he didn't talk about the war in here. He just talked about how she conjured up someone. Yeah, the person had passed on, and so King James was like, that couldn't be so. And Samuel, that's what it was. Okay, all right. Now I done found my little writing. Yeah, I apologize. So King James was saying that Saul was mistaken, and Samuel was not called forward in the ceremony. I'm sorry. Go ahead on, brother. And when you want to jump in, just let me know when you want to put something on it. Okay. So he was saying that King James was saying that Saul was mistaken. Samuel was not called forward in the ceremony because all Christians agreed that it was only the sorcerers and witches who are ignorant to believe this. And they use Satan, which can transform himself into an angel and use light. So what was interesting to me, again, was out the gate, and you're going to see this throughout the first book, because I've only gotten through the first book of Demonology, how he's going to be pointing out that the witches and sorcerers are performing these ceremonies to use magic. Now, the interesting part about it is those that are familiar with ceremonies and rituals, he went into some details talking about the circles, which really, really kind of taken me back because I had never seen anything to that detail in any of these quote religious texts. So I'll pause in case somebody want to put something on it while I find my next bearing in my writing, in my notes rather.
Yeah, that's what you.
Well, when you use okay.
That was in chapter 1.
Yes, I'm still in chapter 1. Yes.
Go ahead, bro.
Go ahead on, brother.
I was just going to say that when I was going to go to the symbolism aspect of it and the whole meaning of the circles, like when they're using the circles, they're talking about congregation. For one, the very meaning of the word church is to say a circle. So when you're talking about the circle, not only are you talking about the church, you're talking about the sun. So that's the whole point of the Son of God or Son of Man coming to the forefront, because what's in the middle of that circle would be man, as the sun. Now, they refer to that as a black dot or as a dot, but him in that circle means he got a full 360 perspective of his awareness. Now, the whole triangle aspect of it, because now that you're talking about the magic, now you're talking about the triangles. And then we go into the squares. Now we're talking about the kingdom. So now we're talking about controlling the Metatron, the cube that basically the Metatron or the El Shaddai created. So in this case, him saying that they went into a seance to essentially bring forth this demon, which is basically a demon would be man or any being essentially at a root level. Now, many people may refer to it as a lower level being, or in a lower level being something that's vile or that's destructive. In actuality, it just means he likes to stay at the beginning of things. He doesn't move forward. You come to the root to understand where it all begins, if it has a beginning. So, therefore, the demon is just still stuck at the bottom, or he loves being there. So now they have to go into the circle and into the congregation to essentially bring him forth. Now, I'm listening to the whole Saul and Paul thing, and in regards to Saul and Paul, now they're talking about a black and a white magic. Well, there's no such thing. Because clearly, magic is in itself a neutral science. It has no good or evil, so to speak. Now, we apply a good evil to it, but it's just inaccurate. It doesn't have to discriminate. It all depends on how you use magics
Right.
For wherever you want to use them for. So that in itself is an oxymoron. But if they're talking about any type of black magic, so to speak, they're talking about something older. So it means the demon is way older than the demon of light, which would be the white magic.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want to say. Just on that part.
No, very, very good. Thank you for that, and thank you for the Saul and Paul breakdown, because later on in one of the chapters he did say that Saul had to give up Saul to become Paul. So I love how you just explained it between the light and the dark, and how you really have both, because that's that whole yin and yang duality concept as well. So very, very good point. And I like how you use that the circle. When I was speaking of the circle, I was speaking of it in the literally ritual perspective of creating a circle to conjure up a certain energy. And I love how you used it as the circle being the congregation coming together to conjure up whatever particular energies, and that the demon is actually just the lower nature, because we're all have lower and higher nature, okay? And the family will know what I mean when I equate that to even your chakras, of the balancing out the energy. So it's depending on where you want to be with that. So thank you for that. I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
But it is deep, because I've heard what individuals in the so-called I'm not going to say so-called, but I've heard individuals in the conscious community have essentially established that the lower nature is somehow a negative, that we have to reach this higher, and that's nice, because you most certainly should. But however, you can never reach the higher unless you start at the roots. It always has to start at the roots.
Right.
So this is why when we are speaking in the higher, we only see what they show us in the higher. So we see a tree of life, we will see it at the top. We'll see when it's fully grown, but we will not see it as when it started off in the roots. We don't even see what essentially was the seed that was needed to plant that tree. We don't know what that was. So that comes before even just planting it into the ground. Then you have to think of the mind that will essentially create the seed that was planted into the ground. Then the mind that will essentially have to fertilize it. So now that's when it gets higher and higher. And that's coming from the person that was lower and lower.
Right. Very, very good analogy. Another thing that came to mind, and I forgot it, but I'm glad you interrupted me so I could talk about it too. When you spoke of the triangle, and that's, I can't remember if that was in chapter 1. I think it was when it's a little bit further down. But anyhow, when he started explaining and talking about King James, when he went into specifics on the, I'm going to call them rituals or ceremonies that these particular witches and sorcerers and charmers were performing, he talked about symbols. Okay, so he talked about the circle, he talked about the triangle, and he talked about the seasons. But back to the triangle, that also made me think about the different symbology that is used on the particular planet today with the triangle. And, we know that triangle also represents as above, so below, the double triangle, which spins into that cube or that Metatron, which is your Merkaba or your Makaba. So thank you for bringing that up, because he does talk about that throughout this book, which just, my mouth just straight up flew open. I couldn't believe that they were putting that in the book. Now, of course, they didn't go to the detail that we just went through, but just for the pure fact of them talking about ceremonies and what they use in the ceremonies and how they do the ceremonies, he said, at a particular time, at a particular season. I'm like, whoa, I was really shocked to see that in the text. So let me see if there's any other thing I want to discuss in chapter 1. So basically in chapter 1, he was kind of getting on Saul about this witch performing a ceremony, saying that it wasn't true. He really didn't know what he was looking at. Interestingly enough, the one thing that I picked up is that King James in chapter 1, he started talking about, he said he also, these are my notes, he also questions, is the witch that was conducting the ritual for Saul has the spirit of a python. So I'm like, oh, sucky now. So the python, you have to think back into the is the fable serpent that was slain by Apollo near Delphi. Okay, so that python represents two things. So we're going to take it back to the historical point in the Greek era on how the python represented the prophetess and how the prophetess was the oracles back in those Greek times that were the advisors to the rulers, the kings or whatever. So they would go to the prophetess or the Delphi oracles to get the particular spiritual information. Okay, so that's one point of that python. The other point of the python, and we should know by now from a spiritual perspective, of course, it represents the Kundalini energy. Okay, and then the other part, back to that python, I thought of in those Delphi times and those prophetess, remember the whole mythology of Medusa with the snakes in her hair. And Medusa had to be, they killed Medusa in order to take down that, I think that beast's name was Titan. So I just found that interesting that King James told Saul pretty much, go ahead on, this woman, this witch, she is not, or charmer, is not legitimate. She has the spirit of a python. Okay, so that within itself is very deep. It has several meanings. He could be referring to the oracles back in the day that was prophetess with that Medusa energy, and then on the other hand, the python also represents the Kundalini energy. Okay, so I'm sorry, go ahead on, brother. Yes.
The python could also represent APEP.
APEP? Yeah, go into that. I'm like, APEC.
APEC.
Jewish?
No, that's going. Pep, he was always fighting Ra. That was Ra's greatest nemesis.
Ah. Okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because even in the Greek era, the python got taken down by Apollo. But go ahead on. Yes, brother, go ahead on.
It can also represent the Naga.
Mhm.
They were taken worship. I mean, a lot of what we look at as serpents, though, are actually dragons.
That's a good point.
You know, they tried to obscure the line between that, too. That's a whole...
Yes.
another topic for another day.
Yes, and maybe we'll put together something on that. Okay, so that's what I got out of chapter 1, and it was probably chapter 1 and 2 combined because I didn't start keeping up with it until chapter 3. So the other point I wanted to make, I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead, Brother Sean.
Also in chapter 1, it talks about the fall.
Yes. Did you want to give some more insight to that? I didn't do a good job with my notes on chapter 1.
In chapter 2, all these chapters begin with argument.
Yes. And I didn't start documenting them until chapter 3. Yes.
And it's actually two guys going back and forth. Blasphemous, he says, but I think it very strange that God should permit any mankind, okay, since they bear his own image, to fall in such gross and filthy a defection. All of these are arguments. They're trying to justify what they're about to do.
Yes. Agreed. 1,000% agreed, because on another part, and again, I'm sorry, I didn't start documenting closely until I got to chapter 3 with the arguments. My bad. It took me a while to get my head around the difference in the language. But this was the part that blew me back in chapter 2, when it says he goes on to say, these are my words, that folks that have witchcraft and sorcery on their mind has an appetite of predicting future events. And the reason they are doing this is because of the great poverty. So in other words, the people that were being suppressed, because you have to remember these European kingdoms, they were sanctioned by the quote high priest or the Catholic Church or whatever, but King James wasn't Catholic. That's a separate story. He was Protestant. But anyhow, these particular kingdoms were going around and conquering the indigenous people of the land who did not have their particular, what we're calling today, organized religion. So they used, the energies of the planet and the universe, and used through oral traditions, and were taught how to use the energies, okay, to live and to be in harmony and balance with the planet. So apparently, what they labeled witches and sorcerers, and we could have called them back in the day, the shamans, with the medicine men and women, and the oracles, or the witch doctors, however you want to classify them, must have been pretty powerful, because throughout this particular book, to me, I got the vibe that there was a certain amount of fear for the knowledge and that these indigenous people had, and specifically the witches, and how it can wreak havoc on these particular kingdoms planned to continue to rule in a colonized state. So for him to make the statement that they can use their witchcraft to predict future events caused through great poverty, okay? And it says, for that old and crafty serpent, being a spirit, he easily spies our affections, and so conforms himself, therefore, to deceive us to our wreck. Okay, so, and I'll pause in case somebody wants to put something on it.
Yes. I want to say something about it. A lot of the witch hunts they had at the time, especially the witch hunts you've had later on during the 1800s, those witch hunts were just land grabs. In particular, they would accuse someone of witchcraft just so they could take the land. And once they took the land, they would kill the person, obviously, have them executed, and then essentially take the land for themselves and build whatever they want on the land. And as far as the witchcraft goes, they didn't know what the heck that was anyway. Much of the science of the witchcraft is a pretty broad science. So what I mean by that is you're talking about a combination or a combination of various forms of, I want to say demonology, but in this case, but really just ancient forms of experimentation that has been collected amongst the people through the hemispheres. So they had no idea what it is. It was. They didn't even realize there was a connection to either one. It's kind of like looking at what they know now, but they didn't know at the time. It's like looking at the movie Prometheus. If any of you ever seen that movie before. And after they awaken from their stasis, and they're given a briefing by one of the researchers, he tells them that all of these nations were essentially doing the same thing at the same time, but they had no connection with one another. That would be a lie, a bit of distortion in truth. But however, that's what they actually believed at that time. Say, hey, hold on, you have the same thing, but y'all are connected. Well, it doesn't matter. They still doing the same thing. So I should tell you that they are connected in some aspect. They may not be the exact same bloodline. You know, the Maya may not be exactly the same as the Cometian or the quote unquote Egyptian. But however, they shared amongst one another when it came to the sciences. So their sciences would be found in the Egyptian quote unquote texts. In the Egyptian texts, you will find also maybe and more likely in the Mayan texts. So they still had a connection, just not maybe the same bloodline. But so it's mighty funny in the aspect that he said they will use the witchcraft to predict. Well, that's interesting because what they were really saying. I'm just picking up here. I'm not going to say that's what you're saying exactly, but I'm just this is what I'm saying. It sounded like to me he was going to use some form of the metaphysics through witchcraft to create events through some form of witchcraft. So, in other words, if I could use what witchcraft is to create events and use that as a way to say, these are future events, this is prediction, then I can essentially still use witchcraft but tell everybody else that it's evil in the aspect of what they show us on television. So they never give you a broad perspective of what witchcraft really is. Instead, you're limited to what they want you to know. It's kind of like the idea of a Christian telling you, oh, that's a cult. Well, what you're in is essentially a cult as well. Well, wait a minute. What do you mean? This is not a cult. This is the word of God. But it's the same thing because only you and those people that believe what's in that book are essentially a part of that culture. So if I believe in Allah, I'm a part of that culture. If I believe in Buddhism, I'm a part of that culture. But all of it essentially is a cult.
Yes. Now, I'm glad you brought that up about, and I thank you for that, for putting in there that maybe he was taking the knowledge to, from a metaphysics standpoint, to what's the word that they're using? Is it predictive programming? Future events. Yeah, predictive programming. That's what I'm trying to say. Predictive programming the populace for future events that they are planning, because that's exactly what they have done with the science. And as you read throughout this book, and I highly, highly recommend it, you can go online and get it as a PDF. you're going to see that he's going to be down talking magic and sorcery and then turn right around and say, but in Christianity, woo, woo, 1, 2, 3, and you like, come on, blood. See what you're trying to do here. You're swapping one for the other. You're basically taking the power out of the people's hand that have been practicing this for millions and millions of years. And your point, brother, is very well taken, that particular science or witchcraft could be found across the planet in different languages, practiced among different groups. So although they weren't like in each other's face, hey, how you doing, they were all still connected because they were connected to the source, to that science. Okay? And so essentially when they went around the planet conquering and colonizing, they stained the magic or the energy or the metaphysics, what they called witchcraft, to take the power out of the people's hands and their culture, and gave them all the power to manipulate the sciences for their purposes to keep controlling. Okay, so very, very, very good point, brother. Okay, brother. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis.
The Inquisition was also a property grab, because they even dug up people in perpetuity and declared their property to be theirs. So they were charging the people in the Inquisition with witchcraft to kill them. To get their property as well. And that
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they do that trick. And then they make it's a gang mob mentality where they get the people all fired up,
riled up,
for justice, and we got to get the devil out of here, and da 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 da. And they use religion, organized religion, as their motivator, because the Catholic Church is the one who did the Inquisition.
Right.
So all of this is about land grabbing, and they're planning on doing stuff here too to grab our land. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it twisted. They're going to do it again. So
it never ended.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. It's the same tactics. It's the same tactics. It's just now that we're waking back up and tapping into the knowledge, but I would totally agree with you. I'm sorry. Go ahead on, sis.
No, I'm just. But it's just that we have to be mindful of the fact that them take our consciousness of who we should be dealing with, within ourselves to save ourselves. They can use that and twist it for their own good. So we need to be mindful not to listen to them, because they want what we have. And there's not the other way around.
Exactly. Well, they don't have anything to offer us.
Anything. That's true.
I mean, when you have it all, what can someone give you?
Nothing.
Nothing but an illusion if you choose to accept that illusion. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, I was just saying, I was thinking about your question there. And, in our case, see, they essentially taken everything. But here's the thing. What they don't have is the immortality that we have. They do not have that. See, that's what they've been trying to accomplish for how long? Centuries. To try to gain this immortality. But they will tell you that the flesh is nothing. Well, they talk about themselves. They know that the flesh is nothing for them. But they have to consume flesh to somehow have some kind of longevity in their bones. But the immortality that is essentially that is us, that's what they don't have. And that's what they wish that we could give them.
Right.
So now they have to mix us up with this social alchemy, which is for everybody to be a part of this purging of the blood. Now, how they do this? By mixing the blood. So we mix out the bloodlines, and we have everybody mixing, the Asian mixing with the Negro mixing with the Caucasian, the Caucasian mixing with the Asian. As all the bloodlines continue to mix, then you'll be faded out. So therefore, either there's going to be an enhanced form of mortality on his part, but it won't benefit the whole. So then we go back to where when his blood does deplete out, like they always say, or we always say that mixing with him, he will essentially be wiped out. Yeah, but then your blood will be tainted. So then your days will become shorter. Now, that being the case, we can go back to the movie, because they always put stuff in movies, right?
Yeah.
We go back to the movie, The Time Machine, and the modern Time Machine movie they made, 2002. And we can see clearly that the people in that film, every last one of them were a mixed race of melanated people. Some were mixed with whites, some were mixed with Asian, but they all were mixed. They were no full black. The only full black, quote unquote, that you saw in the film was a hologram. And that's to tell you how far in the future that the Negro has been depleted. That essentially his bloodline has been eradicated. And now all you have in his remembrance is a hologram.
Now that's interesting. When you bring up the mixing of bloodlines, it brings me back to one of Bobby Hemmett's lectures he did. It's on YouTube back in the 90s. He was saying that what he got particularly from the spirit realm was that there was a certain time frame that the mixing of the bloodlines, there was a cutoff is what I'm trying to say. There was a cutoff in order to survive the new higher energies and to get some of the properties of the stronger bloodlines and the older souls. There was a cutoff timeline when they were supposed to be mixing in with the bloodlines. And he said they missed that opportunity back in the 30s. So I just find it really interesting that now you're seeing all of this media talking about the swirl and the melanated woman getting with the Caucasian man, and over in Africa, we know that that's happening with the Asians, right? The Asian men mixing with the African women, and part of that is because of land too. Don't get me wrong; it is part of the land, but it's also a spiritual thing as well. But even with all of that going on that they think they're going to usher out, it's really too late because the energies have already shifted. So there's not enough time for them to catch up, if that makes sense.
Well, see, they know that. And that's besides the point for them. Because as long as they understand that, as long as they understand that they contain it in the time that they do have, it will still be a problem in the future. So let's say that they are eradicated due to that. Let's say that they are eradicated due to, let's say, the adverse effects of the sun, or perhaps they will develop disease that will just eradicate them as a whole. As long as they have tainted the planet as much as they have, or tainted the soil, destroying the water, or poisoning the air, that even though they are gone, now your work on recovering from the effects of their destruction is much greater.
Got you. So since I can't enjoy it, I'm a show make it hard for you to enjoy it, pretty much.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and make the cleanup that much harder. So excellent point. Okay, so that ends chapter 1 and 2, Brother Sean. Did you have anything to put on it before we go to 3?
Yeah. Another thing in 2. He says, God forbid, is capital G, lowercase o, lowercase b. God forbid, for the sin against the Holy Ghost has two branches. The one, the falling back from the whole service of God, all caps. What he talking about, the corporation, and refusal of all his precepts. I guess his prophets, because, they always sent the clergy out first.
Right.
Just like dude who got shot down with all them arrows, going over there with that Bible, talking about he going to save them from Jesus.
I shouldn't be laughing, but yes. Yeah, they wasn't playing. I don't think he made it up out that boat, or if he did, he didn't make it far. But that's a good point, Brother Sean.
It goes on to say the other is the doing, the first with knowledge, knowing that they do wrong against their own conscience, and the testimonies of the Holy Spirit, having once had a taste of the sweetness of God's mercies. Now in the first of the two, all sorts of necromancers, enchanters, or witches are comprehended. In other words, he's saying they know. They know about their God. They don't give a fuck about it. But in the last, none but such are with this knowledge that I've spoken of. So he's saying that knowledge that they got ain't shit and don't exist is only known to them. So we get rid of them and that knowledge, then everybody will fall up under the God spell.
That makes sense. Yeah, that was pretty hard hitting, Brother Sean, and the fact that purposely he made a distinction with the wording, and that's why we talk about that words also play very important meanings. How he did the G-O-D, capital G, small o, small d, and then the capital, all caps, God. So clearly he's making a distinction between the two. So thank you for that, Brother Sean, for pointing that out. And it's interesting, as you read this, you're going to see them do, I'm getting a lot of background noise from somebody. As you read through this, you're going to read how a lot of playing of the words are going on in here, and it's like double, triple meanings to the words. And, these are the same type of tricks that we see today with these folks' legalese system, as well as even to the later book to come, which was the Holy Bible, which when you're reading through stuff, it'll have 4 or 5 meanings. So very good for that, Brother Sean, and to point out the differences in the gods that he was speaking on. Okay, we're going to go to chapter 3, and chapter 3 was the difference between magic and, how do you say that? Is it necromancy? I know I'm not pronouncing it right. Is where magic... Necromancy. Okay, so the difference between magic and necromancy, and if you're following along, that starts on page 13. Okay, so Brother Sean, I'll let you, if you wanted to start out with yours on some of the points you wanted to give off on this chapter, and then I'll follow behind you.
Okay.
If not, I can go. I just didn't want to hog it up. Oh.
Okay, he say, I would gladly first hear what this thing is that ye call magi or necromancy. He goes off into the etymology of the word. This word magi in the Persian tongue imports as much as to be any contemplator or interpreter of divine and heavenly sciences. So they know exactly what it is. They ain't thinking about no demons or no witches or spells. He lets you know right there that he talks about divine and heavenly science, which being first used among the Chaldees through their ignorance of the true divinity, was esteemed and reputed amongst them as a principal virtue, therefore was named unjustly, with an honorable style, which name the Greeks imitated, generally importing all these kinds of unlawful arts. So, again, he stood up and admit that they would then turn around and use it themselves for unjust.
Yep. Yes, he did. And just real quick on the Chaldees, I had pulled, because I'm like, who the hell is the Chaldees? So I had to go search, doggone Wikipedia. It was a Semitic-speaking nation that existed between the late 10th or 9th and mid-6th centuries BC, after which it and its people were absorbed and assimilated into Babylonia. It was located in the marshy lands of the far southeast corner of Mesopotamia and briefly came to rule Babylon. Okay, so I just wanted to put into perspective to the family the Chaldees, who he's saying was using these sciences. Okay, that kind of tripped me out too, Brother Sean. Oh, but in chapter 1, it was witchcraft and sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
Now in chapter 1 and 2, it was witchcraft and sorcery. Now we get down to 3, and now it's part of the sciences. So I thought that was just absolutely interesting as well. And also in the chapter, he talks about astrology. And interestingly enough, what I found interesting is that he kind of talks about astrology in a favorable perspective, saying that astrology will lead one to want more knowledge. So he was double talking a lot in this chapter is what I'm trying to get at. Because he starts off by saying that the Chaldees are using these high sciences, but then he goes into, astrology also. But, if you use these things, then that's going to lead you to want more knowledge, which is going to lead you deeper into magic. Okay, so I kind of cracked up. I'm like, so you're really telling the truth when you say that, because even those of us that started studying consciousness, the more you study, the more you go within, the more you want to know, the more you keep growing, the stronger you become spiritually, okay? So that's pretty much what he's saying, but he's using reverse psychology to say, don't really mess with that, because the more you mess with it, the more that magic stuff you're going to want to use. So then he goes into kind of putting it into what's lawful and what's not. And he was saying all of it will appear lawful, so meaning all of the magic that folks are using will appear as lawful as they claim to have knowledge of things to come. We talked about that in chapter 2. They will study from degree to degree. Now, degree to degree is very interesting, because as those secret societies, it's all about the degrees of knowledge that they promote each other in the sciences, okay? So he's really telling on himself But if you don't know what he's talking about, it'll go over your head. So he says they will study from degree to degree upon the slippery and uncertainty where the arts of lawful arts or sciences fails to satisfy their restless minds, even to seek to that black and unlawful science of magic. Okay, hold up, blood. Why are you going to say either it's lawful or it's not lawful? So you're contradicting yourself purposely. He is doing this. Says, we're finding at the first that such diverse forms of circles and conjuring rightly joined thereunto, so in other words, doing rituals, or as the brother spoke on, coming together, conjuring up energies, will raise such diverse forms of spirits to resolve them of their doubts, and attributing the doing thereof to the power inseparably tied or inherent in the circle, and may words of God confusedly wrapped in. So in other words, he's saying, let's back up to what he is saying. So as Brother Sean pointed out, he up there going to tell the Chaldees and them that, yeah, we know that y'all using the magic, which is really high sciences. And then he goes into, and I know that y'all using the devil's school of astrology, but, when y'all doing that, it's going to lead you to want even more knowledge, which is going to lead you to magic, okay? And then he tries to justify what part of magic is lawful and what part of magic is unlawful. So he's really going in hard on the performing of rituals and conjuring up the different spirits that he is considering unlawful, and it's the devil's work, etc. So I'm going to pause in case somebody want to put something on that, because I just found that contradictory double talk and that just mind-blowing.
Hey, sis.
Uh-huh. Go ahead, brother.
The other part of it was when he goes off into necromancy. And this word necromancy is a Greek word. Yes. Compounded of, I ain't even going to pretend like I can pronounce them two words, which is to say the prophecies by the dead. The last name is given to this black and unlawful science by the figure Sinadochi, because it is a principal part of the art to serve themselves with dead carcasses, I guess, in their divinations. So, trying to say that we were doing blood sacrifices. I could almost remember them bringing that. Unless some of the ancestors was burning their bodies as they was trying to come over here.
That could have very well been so. And because all I keep getting out of him bringing up witchcraft and necromancy, and thank you for for clarifying the definition of necromancy, is the fact that he don't want them to do no rituals. They're literally afraid of the rituals, but using the guise of it being the devil's work. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that during the necromancy, that blood rituals, probably burning of the body, sacrificing was being done because of the wars that was going on as they were going around the planet conquering the indigenous people and enslaving them. So that's a very, very good point. I'm sorry. Go ahead on, brother.
Oh, yes. I actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that the prophecies by the dead. In their culture, they didn't pray to the ancestors. So them being us praying to the ancestors and being empowered through that also, they prayed to a God.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Okay, go ahead on, brother.
Oh yeah.
Andrew.
I'm here reading along now. I'm actually reading on my other phone from a PDF file, but I actually want to go back to the part that Sean came up with earlier about the. Let me go back to it, where it says, "God forbid." No, it's about the part where it said, which chapter is this? Chapter 2, and it says that God forbid for the sin against the Holy Ghost had two branches, the one a falling back from the whole service of God, G-O-D, from what they put out here. Yeah, it's very interesting because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, well, he was a king of Scotland and essentially one of England as well. But then when you're using the word God here, just the title itself is German. So it appears that some allegiance with Germany of some sort. If for one, it couldn't be the name German at that time because it wasn't given the name Germany, but it would still be German. Now, we also understand that with the word God in German, and get the word Goth, or Guth. You understand? So then we translate that, we find out that their God is in the darkness, or their God is the darkness itself. Now, we go back to the film. Again, I know I keep using films here. This is something I do here. We go back to this film, Doctor Strange. In Doctor Strange.
Oh, I love that.
Servant of the Dark Dimension, Caecilius said he wanted to bring forth the Dark Dimension and bring that into the world, where he said that if it was brought back, the sciences and knowledge from it will grant humanity all the secrets of the universe, and therefore grant them with full immortality. Now, of course, we've seen in that film the Celtic god or goddess, or her becoming a man to essentially hide who she was, told them not to use this energy, and therefore, when he finds out by reading the books. The books he reads are the book. It's the book of time. Yep. The book of time is the Bible, because the Bible is the book of time. It's the beginning of time, which you essentially see in the middle of time and the end of time. So he read the Bible, and what he called the secrets of the dark dimension. The dark dimensions being the Dark Father, the Darth Vader. So I'm going back to the G-O-D. In the service of the G-O-D, when we break down the word God, we get gold, oil, and drugs. So therefore, in service of the merchandise that they have acquired from all the lands, that's the whole purpose of taking the lands as well. Because now we're talking about the gold, the oil, and the drugs, to being the opium of their time.
So their commerce, in other words.
Yes. Well, that's the whole point. The whole Inquisition was an enterprise to snatch up, as we just said, as you just stated, the commerce.
Yeah, this is deep. I mean, it's just deep. That's for every angle. It's just, wow. Yeah. It's deep because in chapter 3, he had talked about bond slaves. So I'm going to let y'all give y'all a chance to get to chapter 3 where, so chapter 3, y'all, starts on page 13, And so to help y'all get there.
Is it book 1?
Yeah, we're still in book 1. Yeah, we're still in book 1. Yeah. So page 13, and it talks about they blindly glory of themselves, and if they had by their quickness of image, or it could be imagined, made a conquest of Pluto's dominion, and were become emperors over the Stygon, and I looked that up, it meant muddy rivers, habitables, where in the meantime, miserable wretches, they are becoming in every deed bond slaves to their mortal enemy. That just blew me all the way over, y'all. They are becoming in every deed bond slaves to their mortal enemy and their knowledge. For all that they presume thereof is nothing increased except in knowing evil and horrors of hell for punishment thereof, as Adam was by the eating the forbidden tree. Now, that blew me all the way out the water, because when I saw the bond slave, that's when I started thinking of commerce. So y'all caught the commerce back up in chapter 2. So I'm like, did he just sit up here and say that pretty much he reversed it on them? So in other words, the further and further they get away from the tree of knowledge, which is the forbidden tree, let's be clear, that tree in the Bible was talking about knowledge. So the further they got away, meaning the indigenous people got away from the knowledge, they become bond slaves to their mortal enemy. I'm like, wow.
That's it.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean. Yes.
You got to think about our connection to the giant tree, the ancestor connection to the giant tree, and that's taking you off into Avatar. Your Lord is brother Andrue,
right.
Because he excellent with the movie breakdowns. Y'all will get along perfectly on that.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead, Brother Andrue. You want to put something on that? Because the tree of life to me are those that the ancient trees, not just trees plural. But I want you to put something on that for sure, brother.
They're talking about all of the cedar trees they found over here. Well, I usually tell people, close friends or just regards when I'm teaching people, students of mine, I always tell them that the entire region, or this entire continent that we call the Americas, or as others we refer to as Turtle Island, all of it was essentially a wilderness. All of it.
Yeah.
So they come here and they see these massive cedar trees. So I'm like, wow. You see trees you had never seen before. Trees that are bigger than what you thought was a big tree when you came from. Like, dang, this is a big tree. You come over here like, wow, this is a tree?
Right.
You sure? I thought it was a house. You sure there ain't 3 houses combined? You sure there ain't 5 pyramids? Because that's how big the trees were. Right. It would take them a long time to bring them down, but they always brought down your most sacred ones, the ones you have gave reverence to, because you have grown them for so long. They've been around for so long that these are the ones bringing them down will hurt you the most. Like, oh, maybe this is the source of your powers, so we'll bring this down then. And that's what they would do. They'll keep the other trees until eventually start tearing those down so they can build on them, build the land. But they will always take down the most powerful, the oldest tree, the most massive tree that you can imagine. They always want to take that one down. Now, I also want to state that there are a couple of other cedar trees on this planet, especially here in America, that they still they have never taken down. They just have built around it. They made sure they build around it so they can keep it concealed to themselves. So you'll never know where it's at. Whereas they got the ones they have destroyed. It's kind of like listening to them when they say that, oh, we went into Egypt and we burnt all the books. Well, we know that's a lie, because why would you do that? The whole purpose of going to Egypt was to find the secret. So why would you burn all the books? No, what you really should be saying is that you burnt what you wanted to burn and kept the rest.
Yeah.
See, that's why they gave us the movie Fahrenheit 451, especially this remake with Michael B. Jordan, and showed us that, hey, you know, even with all this burning, we still keep stuff for ourselves. You know, so they let you know on low key, yeah, we burnt some books, but we kept the ones that really were important.
Wow, that's a very, very good breakdown, and Brother Sean know this, and the family knows this, that, you know, we know, well, certain one of us know anyway, that when those trees came down, it also lowered the vibration, and it even changed the atmosphere structure of the planet as well. So in other words, the air that we used to breathe with our beautiful ancient trees is not the same air that we're breathing now.
Right. And that's true. And that also goes the same for with the water, because the water also takes from the oxygen of the trees as well. All the plant life, the algae, all that stuff was supposed to essentially all be combined, and like I say, they work cohesively with one another. So if there's water on the plant, the trees must be on the plant. Everything has to work in accordance with one another, or one accord. So when they started tearing the trees down, as you mentioned, then yes, the water started becoming more corrupt, or the water started changing its color, because really, what we see the reflection of water now was not as a reflection, but that goes along with tearing down the trees, creating man-made oceans, because they would use dynamite to essentially destroy areas and you know, also flood areas, right? Like they did with New Orleans. Flood areas out, and you know, you think these areas are always underwater. Oh, these ancient cities are underwater. No, in actuality, they flooded the area, so now it's underwater. So you go underwater and you see it.
Got you. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And you know, when I think of in respect of the trees, let's just take New York alone, because New York used to just be all trees. From you know, it is documented accounts of people that standing on the New York lines, and all they can see, what they're calling now are boroughs, were just all the trees. So just think, and of course, some of them large ancient trees, as Brother Andrue discussed, but just think of how much excavation that had to be done. I'm just talking New York alone right now. And then in the place of it, all of the digging that was done, and putting concrete structures on these islands, so none of it's natural. And then in addition to that, blowing up the underground to create the subway systems. And they even in New York, it is said that that subway system even runs underneath or through water as well. And I recently had the opportunity, this was my first time, I was riding through New York. I took a road trip. And when you're going through, and you're going through like West Virginia and Pennsylvania, and you see the different bridges and tunnels where they had to blast through what they are calling mountains, which we know was more than likely a tree. And they still have above, the naming of the bridges that they calling, or the tunnels, they call themselves giving respect to the different indigenous tribes based on the way they named them. I just really got really emotional about it, because you think about the devastation that has happened across the planet to tear up something so natural and so beautiful, to keep everything in balance, to keep everything at a certain functional high vibration, to replace it with concrete, which is something that is destructible, that's not renewable. It just blows my mind. So thank you for that, brother, for bringing it back to the perspective on the tree. And it really hit me hard when he said that, the further away they get from the tree of knowledge, they will become bond slaves by their enemy. And that's exactly what has taken place. So I'll pause. That's all I had on chapter 3. I'm not sure, Brother Sean, if you had something else you want to put on chapter 3. Uh-oh. Let me look at the board. Okay. I didn't know if you dropped off. I said, let me look at the board. Okay, so now, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay.
I was just glancing over it to see if there was something. But they go off into about astrology.
Yes.
And you say astrology is the devil's school.
Yeah, because he started it off in chapter 3, and then in chapter 4, he was the debate is, or the comparison, or however you want, the argument. I like how Brother Sean put it. The argument is in chapter 4 the difference between astronomy and astrology.
They said.
Oh, huh?
But this is also in chapter 3. Surely
okay,
the
go
difference
ahead.
is. Surely the difference is that vulgar put betwixt them is very merry and in a manner true, for they say that the witches are servants only and slaves to the devil, but the necromancers are his masters and commanders.
Yes.
And far as, how can that be true? Yet any man being specially addicted to his service can be his commanders. He said, yea, they may be, but it is only secundum quid. For it is not by any power that they can have over him, but ex facto, whereby he obliges himself in some trifles to them, that he may on the other part obtain the fruition of their body and soul, which is the only thing he hunts for.
Wow.
So, I mean, if we can bring that up to present day with these entertainers selling their soul for fun.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely.
You can also bring to the fact that they call this a democracy, which is the root of demons.
Mm.
So we're in the demon's position, and we do things that keep us in the demon's position.
Right. Well, their demon that they conjured up using, the same sciences that they tell us that's witchcraft.
Right.
So, yes. Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes, brother.
The necromancers are his commanders, his masters and commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Witches are servants only. Now, from this, we can give necromancers over to those who sign treaties and think that the white man is his servant. He just lets you think that and give you privileges, and
yes,
ultimately he do you in as soon as he feel like it, like he did back then. He ain't under not one treaty.
Exactly. Very powerful point, Brother Sean. And I thought of it because he talked about that, and we're going to get into it, when he even went into contracts. I'm like, I can't be reading this correct. I cannot be reading that this man is going to talk about these spiritual contracts. But, yes, I even put that onto Hollywood. But it's the same formula, family, over and over again, okay? The same exact formula that they're using up to this day. So Brother Sean made a great point. The folks that went into these contracts/treaties, thinking that they possibly had the upper hand, when in turn it got flipped on them, okay? And you can even say that, even, Brother Sean, because I thought when I was reading this, I thought of all of the melanated European courts, the kings and queens is where I'm going with. They got double-crossed as well, because they had contracts and agreements with the Caucasians that they gave a certain amount of knowledge and let into their courts and sent them over to the Americas to be the first explorers and started letting them be the overseers. They turned around and flipped that crap right on them and got them right out of power, although we know all of them aren't not out of power. That's a separate story, separate discussion. But, yes, very, very good point. Okay, we're going to move into Chapter 4, the difference between astronomy and astrology. Now, y'all, I can't make this up. Here's my take on it, and then I'm going to let Brother Sean and Brother Andrew and Sis put something on it, and there's whatever they got out of the chapter. But it's saying that that the practice of, and I had to clean up the language so it could be understood, so I'm interpreting this. It was stated that the practice of natural medicine using herbs is an evil art of the devil, but what is approved such in all times and ages. And then it goes to say, as in special, this science of astrology. So once again, admitting that it's a science, which is one of the special members of the mathematics. Okay, so now he's truly talking about the metaphysics side of it all. Okay, and then he goes on to explain that astronomy is the study of the planets, stars, their course and ordinary motions. And he does credit the Greeks for the word astronomy. And then he states that in the law of the stars, and it is an art of one of the members of mathematics. And then he is given a shout out to that it is lawful but also commendable. Okay, so I'll pause in case, Brother Sean, you have something to put on it, Brother Andrue, Sis Sandra, before I go on with my 2 cents.
Yeah. All right, going down to where he say, I mean, either by such kind of terms is commonly drafted wise verses for healing or for spoken goods, for preserving them for evil eyes, by knitting round trees and sun-dried kind of herbs, to the hair or tails of the goods, by curing the worm, by stemming of blood, by healing of horse crooks, by turning of the riddle, or doing such like innumerable things by words, without applying anything, me to that part offended, as mediciners do.
So to the medicine men or women that could not only use the herbs, but could use the science or the language or the energies to heal as well. Yep, and the chants, or what we call mantras today, chants, absolutely. So I'm like, whoa, they're putting it all out here in this book, and now it makes sense. And I'm just seeing you 661. I apologize, sweetie. I was reading, so I wasn't watching the board. I'll bring you in a second. Now it makes sense how the indigenous people started losing or lost the knowledge of those sacred sciences because it was calculated and planned to suppress it and persecute people for it. So I'll pause, Brother Andrew, if you have something to put on it. Okay. I don't know because I hear a feedback. Let me see. And my board, y'all, is acting up, so that's no shock to me, of course. Yeah, he's still there. Okay, I guess he'll come back in when you get a chance. Sis, did you have anything you want to put on it before I bring in 661?
Well, I just want to say that most of the things they say is bad is actually what's good for us. And now the things they say is, that's a double-sided stuff. They say it's good for us, it's bad for us. Our religion, food, our water, our air, they have changed everything and switched it around so we can't hardly exist anymore. But then again, what you say in the beginning in your song, their time is up.
That's right.
They were given that time to rule and reign and destroy us, and now they can't do that anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me bring on 661, and I apologize if you were holding long. We were deep into the reading. I didn't see you, so here we go. 661, your line is open. Uh-oh, maybe you didn't want to talk. 661?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Did you have something you want to say? I'm good, beloved. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was listening to the show, and every time I tried to, you guys were in the zone, I wanted to put a punchline in there, but I couldn't get in there, so it's okay. I wanted to say, even when in Thessalonians, when it said the dead in Christ shall rise, and those that remain are still alive will be caught up. Well, the root word of the word rapture means to rape and to pillage. So if you look up the etymology.com of the root word of rapture, that's what it means. So they were telling us from the gate, we going to rape y'all through Christ Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Dang. Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
They were coming with what? The sword. It doesn't matter which way you put the word S on there, if it's at the beginning of the word or at the end. They came with the sword, and they used it to take us down. Because even the book said, for foreign nations that we do not know their language, nor their tongue. So when they came here, we didn't know them. We fought them every time they came here. We fought them, but we didn't know them.
Right.
So eventually we let them in. So the root word of it came in the 1500s. Well, we know for a fact 1500s of the word rapture was when that Catholic Church brought their asses over here. Well,
yep, that's so true.
The European side of the Catholic Church, not the real Catholic Church.
Right. Very good point. And you know that King James, which again, melanated man, he brought his ass over here prior to releasing that Bible.
Correct.
Okay. So I can't remember if it was before he released this demonology. I will have to go back and check that, and I'll let you all know for sure. But he was over in the Americas.
Well, let's go with the birth certificate part. They got that Succes Vias trust that they put the birth certificate in, and it was meant to take your life. It came out at the same time King James commissioned that book. It came at the same time that book was written, all that stuff. If you look further into King James history, you'll find out that he has a trust account.
Yes, because I'm sorry, go ahead, brother. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
And when you read the back of the Bible, you'll find out the Catholic Church has copyrights to it.
Yes, because the story is that King James came to the Americas on an expedition. And by the time he left up out of the Americas, he had went back to Europe to put a patent on the lands of the Americas. Now just think of how deep that is. You come over for a visit, so that's like Sean come over my house as a guest for a visit. He stay for a week, kick it, whatever, this, that, and the third. Then next thing I know, he leaves, goes back to his crib, and you go file paperwork to own my house?
The only way they did is while they used the terminology state. When they put the word state in the vocabulary, they got rid of the word territory. Because it was the Louisiana Purchase, it was the Mexican territory. So they turned it into states, and they used that root word to control the population. That's the key word that people overlook. They look at the word united, but they're not looking at the word state. So what is it they have? Your estate, your state of mind, your state of conscience. So they use that word so far off, and so they use it as a copywriting tool to control the masses.
Yes, very good point. Very good point. Now, I found the information. So King James came over here in 1603. Okay, so that was after.
Look up his mother. Look up his mother.
They wound up killing his mom, though, right?
Right. But she had a company. I think it was her who had the company. And then King James probably went over there and slaughtered her and took the company from her because he was next in line. You know how they passed it down from generation to generation.
Right. Because they did roll the patent up into the London Corporation. So you're absolutely right. I didn't know his mom owned it. That's deep. That makes it even deeper. But yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So he came over here after he wrote Demonology, just a couple of years after he wrote Demonology.
Correct. They had to critique. They had to critique the language, and they had to make us see. The English language probably goes further back than we think. They're trying to make it seem like it's a new language, and so on and so forth, like it never existed. All they did was add the verb form to the language. The language was probably
I can see that by reading this.
You see what I'm saying? So this is a trickery in the language base. They say, they took them to a place with a language that they may not know. They just added a vowel. It was probably still the same language because a lot of us don't have to speak it very well. And you don't have to be no slave to speak this language.
True that. True that.
Yes, I want to
go ahead. No, you good. Go ahead, Brother Andrew.
I know that I didn't get a chance to because I was doing something in the moment.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. Let me see. I wanted to go back to the very beginning of this part of the conversation. We was talking about the evil and them going into doing the natural things of life and how they are now perceived as evil at this point in time. Well, when we look up the word evil, we understand that when we verse in the word, we get the word live.
Live.
So
yep.
anytime we look at the word devil, we look at someone that lives. Well, this is running thing going on here. That once the occupation took place, because now we're dealing with occupation. We're dealing with an occupying of the mind instead of a controlling of the mind. See, there's a difference here. When you're occupying the mind, you're distracted. You keep it distracted upon things that you wanted to pay attention to. But as far as controlling the mind, then that's another story. They have yet to do that. The only actual control I've seen of the mind is the military, and where they want you to obey an order on command. The snap of the hand. That is mind control. But to occupy the mind is how they got everybody in this fix.
Right.
So now when we go into the word devil, we're talking about all your ancestors that are essentially a combination of that one thing that they call this demon. And therefore now all things that come from the beginning of what your ancestors were talking about, the law, the laws of nature, the laws of attraction, the laws of the body, the laws of what we call the mind, are now seen as paganism. But yet, within that concept, those conceptualizations, they created another form of it, and that they call it psychology. Now they call it religion. So now this darkness has been turned into a light. Because now they tell you by calling you black, it's saying that you're dead. So now you no longer live. You're all the ones that did live. Whereas we are the ones that now live. We're the light. We're the white people, the right people for the now.
Right.
This is why we have to go ahead into the future, why the Negro remains stagnant. The Negro he cannot go backwards or forwards. He must remain in one place in the middle. And if we want him to progress, which is why we say he's progressing, when in actuality he is not. He's just there. He's existing. He's in statement. He's like,
the Negro can't change anything until he unnaturalizes himself from the U.S. corporation. The Negro can't change until he realizes that the Construction Act that was created for the 14th Amendment was designed to keep you and turn you back into the slave. Until you take the Reconstruction period and you turn that Reconstruction period against them by unvoting for them, the Negro will always stay a Negro.
Right, absolutely. And
agreed.
That in itself is very interesting because now we're dealing with how they wrote the law. It sounds like how they gave you the what's his name? Willie Lynch. I know I'm thinking about Jim Jones. But they gave you the Willie Lynch letter and essentially told you how they will break you into pieces break you down to pieces in a very mathematical and physiological way. So now you're dealing with quantum physics in this case because now they have essentially broke down how he's going to break down the woman and how he's going to break down the man. So now this is where the law comes in because now they have to put that in law.
That makes sense. And to just add on to what you said about that Willie Lynch, and this the thing, it took me some time, y'all, to wrap this around my mind, that basically all of the things, the root of all of the things that have been enacted came through a melanated person first. And then the Caucasians are the ones that are executing and carrying it out. Even with that Willie Lynch letter, that was written by a brother, blew me all the way the F up. Some professor out of he was out of a North Carolina university came out and admitted that he wrote the letter. Now, I feel that he was COINTELPRO, but nonetheless. Right. But nonetheless, it still had to come through a melanated power to resonate, if that makes sense.
Let's go here, because this is what I've been studying lately. I found out the 13th Amendment, when they used the word persons, they turned everybody into a corporate citizen. So then later on after that, they came up with that Reconstruction, and I'm going back on this for a reason. They came in 1866 and the 1870s. They came in and they turned us and told us to vote. Remember, they used to hold the guns and all that stuff, and they used to watch us when we used to go vote, and they used to stand over our shoulders every time we made sure that we voted at that time period. You can remember those images and those pictures. Then they came up with, what they did, they came up with the U.S. Naturalization Act in 1870. That was 2 years after they came up with turning us into 14th Amendment citizens. And then 100 years later, they assassinated Malcolm X in 1865 of what?
1965.
1965 of February 21st. They assassinated him. 1865 of August, they came up with the Voting Rights Act and turned everybody into a slave. 3 years later after that, they assassinated Martin Luther King. So in order to get your understanding, you have to separate from the United States Corporation and get your indigenous status back.
Exactly.
Right.
Willie Lynch can only go so far.
Right.
When you go out, just like even say, for instance, when Obama became president, they couldn't even get anybody to vote before that because people were done voting. So they used this brother.
Yeah.
And they used this brother, got us out there, and they got financially supported after we went out there and used our bond as the slave our signature and brought the energy back into their power because we voted for a house nigga.
Right.
This is true.
Right. That's right, because it brought everyone back under their jurisdiction. You're absolutely right.
Jurisdiction.
You're absolutely right.
So what you have to do, you need to counsel your voting rights, get rid of it, go to the Secretary of State and send a cancellation form and let them know that you will no longer support them because the DMV does not report it to them. You have to do it by yourself and make sure you get a tracking number and get out of it. Because how did we all participate in Babylon? And I'm not talking about old Babylon. I'm talking about mystery Babylon, the Babylon of whores and demons and devils. How did we participate if we didn't know that we were in Babylon? By voting.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. But they started that paper trail stuff when King James came over here with that expedition. Once he went back and put his little funky-ass paperwork together to put patents on land, that's when the paper wars or death by words or war by words started.
Right. And just like with the Voting Rights Act, we gave them permission to come into our neighborhoods and take us down because we went out in 1965 and Martin Luther King was a co-conspirator with them Jews. Let's keep it real. He was a co-conspirator with them, and we went out there and voted. And in the 70s, what they do, they bombed Philadelphia. They bombed all those places, took all these places down in the 70s because we co-conspired with them. And we gave them authorization to come into our communities and take us down because now we're considered U.S. citizens.
Right.
Well, not just citizens. That's all I got to keep in mind. They're also enemies of the state.
Right.
True that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's like what we're talking about now. What we're talking about now, essentially, removing ourselves from their corporation. You also got to keep in mind that in doing so, there must be initiatives and backup plans created from this point because they expect that. They want you to do just that. So that will activate their plan. So if you don't have any backup armies and militaries and things that will essentially put you in, the graces of your own protection, your own strategy, your own system, then it would be all or not. We'd be doing this for nothing. Just to simply say,
Right.
oh, we got to remove ourselves. And that is imperative. That must be done. Has to change the name, have to eradicate the whole black thing and the African American thing, because this creates the fairy tales. By calling you black, this essentially says you no longer exist. By saying you're African American, African American, that is, you don't exist. You're just a legal character.
Yep.
So once we eradicate the names of all the corporations of Africa, the corporation of China, the corporation of Japan, all these corporations, none of them exist. There's no such thing as a Japanese. They didn't call themselves Japanese. There's no such thing as a Chinese. They would call themselves Shinites before they call themselves Chinese. So it's mighty funny. But that has to be done. Have to have plans of action in case anything takes forth in which they want to counterattack, because I've come to this theory in my own mind, essentially, I guess, that they put this information out there just so that we can react against it or against them by learning what they want to see.
Very good points. Very good points. Brother, did you have anything else you want to put on it, 661?
No, that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. You want me to put you back on mute, or you want to just hang out? It's totally up to you.
I'll hang out. I'll put myself on mute.
Okay. You know how we roll. You could just chime in when you feel necessary. Okay. So the other thing in chapter 4, then he goes in on astrology. What did I want to get out of this? I think Brother Sean went over this.
No, the next one.
No, you go ahead, Brother Sean, because my notes, I'm not liking how my notes look. So you go ahead on with that one.
5 replies to him, but methinks these means, which you call the school and rudiments of the devil, are things lawful, and have been approved for such in all times and ages, as in special this science of astrology, which is one of the special members of the mathematics. So, they was like, going back and forth. That's why I say arguments. He telling him, look, no, dude, no.
And see, that's where I kept getting confused, because I didn't see it as an argument, because I'm like, well, why is one contradicting the other? So now it makes more sense to me. Okay. No, you're right, because he did say, wait a minute, this is science and mathematics, so what are you talking about? That makes sense. Yep. Which I just found fascinated that they put all this in this book. But I'm sorry. Go ahead on, Brother Sean.
And if he comes back with, there are 2 things which the learned have observed from the beginning, and the science of the heavenly creatures, the planets, stars, and such like. The one is their course and ordinary motions, for which that is called astronomia. I mean, just a minute ago, wasn't he hollering it was evil?
See, that's why I kept getting. That's why I'm like, wait a minute, Blood. You just said a chapter ago that it was evil, so now you're saying. Okay, a paragraph ago. Okay, so but now you saying, oh, but no, but to track the planets and the stars and the motions and the seasons, that's cool. I'm like, okay, you confused yourself because you double talking here.
Right. And he goes on to say, and this art indeed is one of the members of the mathematics, and not only lawful, but most necessary and commendable.
But commendable. That's what I wrote down in my notes. I'm like, wait a minute. So you admit that the use of astronomy is an art and one of the members of mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
It is not only lawful, and I'm paraphrasing here because I didn't write out the whole thing he said. It is not only lawful but also commendable. Okay, so now this proves that. Okay, yes.
Most necessary.
Most necessary. Now, this is very, very powerful, family. This is extremely powerful. To hear this come up out of the king's mouth, okay, they ran his ass over here to run his ass back over there to put a patent on the lands, on the Americas, talk about how important astrology is, that it's a form of mathematics. This is the same thing that, as we bring it up to date, that a lot of the teachers have been telling our particular, the melanated people, about metaphysics and how the realm is governed by mathematics. So I'm saying all this to say that the rulers or the controllers or the colonizers or the invasion or the elite, whatever the heck you want to call them, are using metaphysics / mathematics / astrology. Okay? These are your sciences.
Absolutely.
That they are using. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Andrew. Go ahead.
And that's very imperative to understand, because even when you go into the understanding of the compass and the scale and the square, that is, we have to credit that to the navigator in King Zussalini, who essentially taught them that when he was drunk with them one night. And in his stumper, after he told them the secrets of being drunk, because you know how people get drunk and are smoking.
They're going to tell the truth.
Right.
Right.
He started telling them the secrets because he thought he could trust them. Like, oh, yes, no, I like you brothers. I can trust you Europeans. So he started telling them. And after he told them, he found himself awakening from a dungeon. Why am I here? Oh, good, you told your secrets. Now we can leave you here to rot. And that's where he ended up for the rest of his life.
Wow.
So after teaching them that science, because they had no idea what it meant. So now they use the compass and the square as if it was something that they always knew. It's just the same with the medical industry. As soon as we taught them just the compound that was necessary to create a pill, that's when they started making pills. But then they killed the man that was responsible for them and put another man's face named Hippocrates as the one responsible for it, because he's the one that killed the man that told him how to make the pill.
Yep, and which is why they take that oath, and which is the root word of hypocrite, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So these are all liars, but let them tell it. We didn't do anything. None of the ancestors did anything. They just was living in mud huts.
Right. Let them tell it. Let them tell it. But that's where they got everything from, and even that compass. Let's talk about that, because we've talked about this a little bit before when you went into the triangle. But what other powerful secret society organization uses that compass as their symbol and their logo?
Well, these people call themselves the Masons. I mean, the Freemasons.
Exactly. Right.
Now, it's funny because...
I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
Because
go ahead, brother.
When you're dealing with the Freemasons, you're dealing with people that were freed from the Masons. So now, the Mason had to free these people, essentially teach them the things they know. And it's funny because even though that's what they have done, they have taken the things they have taken from us, they still give you some form of veneration. They hid Hannibal, but yet Hannibal, they respect Hannibal, and they still tell you he's one of the best battle tacticians of all time, if not the greatest, in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, they say we defeated him. Now, I beg to differ with that story, because when we're dealing with that timeline, we're dealing with a timeline where it was predominantly black, or quote unquote black. So
right.
even the Scipio Africanus would have to have been a white man. But I mean a black man.
You better not. Yeah, I was gonna say. Go ahead, brother. I didn't want you to get yourself trapped in a corner on that one. Go ahead.
Well, this is what they can't do. They can't tell me or any of us that we were ruling wrong, but then tell me that a white man essentially came out of nowhere and defeated this ancient war tribe. That's impossible.
Exactly. It's
and
impossible.
then you tell me he defeated him in an area that he is not accustomed to, which is the heat. No. That's impossible.
Exactly.
It's the same with even going with Alexander thing, but they told me he was white too, and I even beg the difference in that equation because his mother didn't come from Greece. But they tell you her bloodline was. Even when we deal with Nero, we're dealing with a black man, or at least a black man that's been mixed with another type of melanated race.
Right.
That he essentially took on a lot of form. They tell you that he burnt down Rome when in actuality we're talking about the Christians. They were responsible for going to war with him because he didn't want their religion in his city.
Yep.
Because we understand that the Christian were the people that pretend to be the Creeks. They wanted to be like him, but they couldn't be. So they were the imposters. But no, everything comes along with that. But I just want to go back to the last point I wanted to make about we were talking about the evil and how to reverse things. It was at this time when the reason why they started reversing things and making them whereas now it's evil instead of it being at one the point was good, quote unquote.
Right.
That was in the Renaissance era. So in the Renaissance era is when they started looking at things from now a good and evil perspective. Because when you were in the Dark Ages and you were in the other ages that exist, the Bronze and the Silver, there was no such concept of a good and evil. You seen everything as singular, but you seen it as many attributes, so it was pluralistic in a singular body. But yeah, when you got into the Renaissance, this is when everything started changing. Now they started looking at things from another level. Oh, that's old, so now it's evil. This is new, so this is good. So now your separation from what they put in the Bible, your separation of light and darkness took place. We separate the light from the darkness. Now the light will be the new thing. It'll be the hit. Where it's black, that's the old school. We don't even, it's oldie but goodie. It's cool and all, but now it's evil.
Right. Makes a lot of sense.
And then the Reconstruction came in, and that's when they reconstructed everything from the quote-unquote good. Now the darkness was engulfed by the light, and you along with it.
So, in other words, and I see you 832 and 313. I'm coming to you, sweetheart. So, in other words, it was really the changing of the energies or influencing the energies. Let me back that up. It was influencing the consciousness of the populace to shift the energies. I needed to reverse that.
Yes.
That's essentially what they keep doing throughout these different ages. And again, I'm going to point out, the further away we moved from the tree of life, and I'm going to say trees because they deserve that honor and respect. The trees of life, the trees of knowledge, the further and further we went into slavery from a consciousness perspective, as well as some cases physical perspective, as well as paperwork, bondage, servitude. So it makes absolutely perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense. So I'm going to bring on 832 and then 313. I see you, sweetheart. I'm coming to you. 832, your line is open.
Brother!
Hey, brother!
Sandra! My sisters from other misters! You know I gotta say it. Feathers up!
Feathers up, brother.
Feathers up.
Sean! Andrew! My brothers from other mothers! You giving us a
Greetings.
Give us that from Mount Olympus. Like Brother Sean likes to throw them thunderbolts down tonight. You know, hey, you know, I was thinking about just one specific thing to tie the timelines that you were stretching for, Rhonda. I believe, and you can correct me, Sean, or whoever has the book, the date was 1603 that I think King James, the Five of Scotland, James the First of England, traveled over here.
Yep, you're right.
Now, we've had discussions that have gone through a timeline of the when we're talking about this Magna Carta, 1215, Dom Diversus, a Doctrine of Discovery, 1452. These are the fundamental cornerstones and foundations of what King James has now been gone. Now, ironically, when I'm listening to y'all describing this demonology, and having been raised Catholic, so let me quantify what I am saying.
Oh, wow.
The Catholic Church creates demons. And then they go and exorcise them. Now, so when we start discussing divide and conquer, and what's being played out in contemporary times now, I go create a problem, cause you to have, detrimental impact. And then I come to you and say, well, I can solve your problem. Isn't that the premise of what's been going on for millennia now? They come over here and the most, recent manner in which they do things is to hand you the Bible, tell you until you convert, and the option is always convert or die. And while you contemplate on that, I'm going to set up stakes over here. So then I'm going to now survey the land, right? Isn't that what you were saying earlier, Rhonda? The surveyors come in. What's the purpose of the surveyors? And by the way, they use the compass. They use the square, and they put it down on a piece of paper. And by the way, on the compass, another thought for you to consider, the compass is a triangle, Rhonda, that turns things into circles. So the triangle is the base, is what is flat on a piece of paper or whatever map that you're using. But it makes a perimeter in a circle, right? Then we go and place the square, which is the foundation of any structure. Now, when people do these things, aren't these just boxes of one form or fashion? Isn't putting something in a box incarcerating something, caging something? If we come, and I love what you were pointing out, Brother Andrew, Avatar is a very, that's an addiction almost for me. You know, they're working on the second one, Rhonda. I don't know when it's going to be released. Maybe 2019. Yes. But the two things I'd like to point out about Avatar and Predator, which I find intriguing, is dreadlocks. Now, you notice these were giant beings, the avatars were giant beings that were blue. And when you look throughout the pantheon of God, what is it, something like in the tens of thousands of gods in Hinduism, Buddhism, or what you consider to be the Eastern mysticism, their gods, they paint blue, don't they? They paint them blue not to actually acknowledge their melanated origin.
Right.
But even in doing that, they still have to pay some acknowledgement other than saying it's white. Now, what we're dealing with here, unfortunately, and this is where this divide and conquer nonsense comes up. Pope, I forgot the name of the Pope, but the one that commissioned Michelangelo, I think it was one of the Borgia popes, Rhonda. His homosexual lover was Cesare Borgia. That's who he painted White Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where White Jesus concept comes from. Then you have.
I didn't know it was a lover.
Oh yeah, well, like I said, Andrue or whoever, you can correct me at any time that I might be in error. But if I'm not mistaken, then the next thing he commissioned.
Oh, I just want to just cut in just a moment. I mean to interrupt you. Just cut 1 second there. Now, it's funny because you just mentioned about the Michelangelo and about his lover and him painting that. Now, this is true. Now, it's funny because it wasn't initially going to be used for that. They wasn't going to use his photo for Jesus. In fact, they didn't have one yet. The whole concept of Jesus was even around. The only thing they had initially was Mithra. So if you wanted to make anything of Mithra, they could have used his face for that.